welcome back. Another Podcasters Row. This is King of Podcasts, but my next guest, she knows me by a different name because, well, before the King of Podcasts thing came to be, I was known, and I still am known today as Brasco on the radio because that's the producer name. But, you know, in front of the microphone, I use a different name. But look, it goes back to 2006. This is before podcasting became a term. If I'm right, we never even called it podcasting. I just got to introduce my guest first of all. So she is currently the host of the Rainbow Remix, which you can find everywhere you want to find podcasts. Also previously hosted the Lesbian Lounge for a number of years, which was noted, and I got to just take it from IMDb. They say that it was one of the first LGBTQ shows / podcasts listed in the top 10 by Curve Magazine and ran for almost a decade or more than that anyway. But now the Rainbow Remix features queer businesses, films, books, music, and projects. I'm here with Denise Warner-Gregory. Denise, goddamn, man, I can't believe we're back. Like this, this is exactly why I wanted to bring this show back on. Podcasters talking to podcasters because the trailblazing. Look, we did a show in 2006, and I'll tell you what it was. It was when we were trying to do radio shows and it was transitioning. And remember, we had, all these shows that were we could do things where we were a little bit outrageous and crazy. You can't do that kind of show now, but it's like, we know what was happening at the time. We all mature, we all get older, but what we did was, at least I could say I'm one of the little people that you have around that was around when you first got, started. And now look at this blown up. Okay. Yeah. You can attribute a lot of I don't know how much your career you attribute to podcasting. You can attribute your life now because you married one of your listeners that met you in 2006. I saw this, story like, wow, that's amazing. And you've been trend-setting, doing a podcast, which I know coming from you and from all the years and the experience you've had in the background, I know that once you moved on to another show, and I was glad that you kept the flag waving because you wanted to keep doing podcasting. It was because the show, even the first time we did it, was already transitioning to what you're doing and continuing to do today, from the Lesbian Lounge to the Rainbow Remix.
Yeah. It wasn't a hard leap to make, but I will say that I was very conscious that the Lesbian Lounge was lightning in a bottle. It was like a once in a lifetime thing. Like it was a slow and steady rise. When we started in 2006, we were lucky if we had, 30 listeners, and, by 2007, we started gaining some momentum, but 2008, 2009, 2010 were the most amazing years. We had guests like Taylor Dane and Jane Lynch.
Oh, God.
It was off the charts. We were doing live events, every Fort Lauderdale Pride, every Key West Women Fest. We really built a brand, and it was so fun. Like, it was such a wild ride.
Yeah.
And, I think it was, like I said, it was lightning in a bottle. And with the Rainbow Remix, I know that you can't do that twice.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to do something that was more of a spotlight to help LGBTQers and their projects, whether it was a small business, a film, a book, anything, just to put a spotlight on it and promote it and hopefully get them help or eyes on it, eyes on their project kind of thing. And I understand, I remember what this grind was like in the beginning. You're grappling for guests. I was fortunate. Like, I could reach into that grab bag and reconnect with any of our old guests and get them on. And so we're building up some steam now. It's still young. Like, we started doing this with, for me, it was a whole different partner. Yeah. I don't have the same relationship with JD Danner as I did with Donna from the Lounge. Like, we lived one house away from each other. We were in our we were all up in each other's business all the time. It was very
right.
And JD is a professional singer. She plays all over South Florida, all over the place, cuts albums and works in Nashville and just has an amazing following. And during COVID, the gigs were just shut down. And she got with me and said, what do you think? Do you want to do something with me? And I was like, yeah, yeah. And it took us a year to find our footing.
Yeah.
We started off as the Whiskey Rock Lounge because
Oh,
because it was like one of the few things that we had in common. I'm not a singer. She's not a
right.
podcaster. So one of the few things we had in common was that we really enjoyed different whiskeys, like doing whiskey tastings.
Yeah.
So we kind of made it about that for a while. And then I thought to myself, it's really hard because we were getting guests, but it was like nobody really, it's hard to appreciate a mixologist over a video or an audio, even worse.
Right.
Like to see him shaking, mixing, smoking glasses and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so we went back to the
Yeah.
drawing board and said, look, let's go back to our community. They're the ones that need the most help. They get forgotten about by, film producers and studios and
Right.
literary agents and all that kind of stuff. It's tough. It's really hard. So yeah, we refocused, we rebranded as the Rainbow Remix, and I think we're finding our footing, and I'm really happy. JD and I have a good rapport. I still think that because she's a performer, it's really funny. She's very conscious about her persona. So she's got like the Joan Jett hair and the makeup and, like she always looks ready. And I just roll up to the screen looking like this, a baseball hat, a t-shirt.
But because you understand podcasting, it's your voice. And the thing was, it was the chemistry, which, is radio, it's still podcasting. Sometimes they don't forget that it's theater of the mind. Studio of the mind, you can just play out and you just understand what kind of a party, what kind of an atmosphere. You're talking with friends. Friends listen to other friends, just just kind of eavesdropping in the conversation. I got to make this point too, because I got to plug somebody. When you're talking about whiskey, I actually have a show I'm producing right now where they're talking about investing in like, Japanese whiskeys and like bottles that like sell for like, such a certain amount. It's like just commodities, right? So Rolex Whiskey Passion Project, Gavin Lind, shout out to you for mentioning that, because right now it's been tough to try to make that show work because they're just talking about whiskeys, but it's like they got to mention Johnny Walker Black like every other show. It's like a drinking game. Johnny Walker Black. It all started Johnny Walker Black and this and that, and now we're going after Japanese whiskeys, and it's everything like that. So it's fun.
It's so funny because we didn't realize until we had a chat with a business. In fact, the guy that helped us with the Lesbian Lounge reconnected with me after God knows how many years, right? And said, I've been following you. I've been following your career, and I like what you're doing. And so I was telling them the same story. Like we've recently rebranded to the Rainbow Remix. We were doing Whiskey Rock Lounge. He said, yep. I listened to some of those shows too. You realize how much free publicity you gave to massive labels of, mentioning Glenn Fittich
True.
and Jameson and, all that. I was like, yeah. And now when I go back and go, oh yeah, I guess we did. But, we're all on track now. And it's, I feel a little bit more comfortable. I feel a lot more comfortable, I should say.
I got to ask you this, Denise, because the difference between from doing the Lesbian Lounge to now, because again, about 10 years you did Lesbian Lounge, and I imagine the content, the format, and the narrative that was going on out there, the plight of those in the LGBTQ plus community and the spotlight growing and growing more has changed. And also, first of all, I remember you being as a stand-up comedian when you first came on.
Yes.
The comedy that you have to go in, if you go out and go on stage now, does it feel different? I mean, do you feel like you're doing, your content has to be different now? It's changed with the times.
Oh, it has to be. It has to be. I go back and I listen to, old shows because, again, during COVID, what I did was I took like old Lesbian Lounge shows from 2007, 2008, 2009. And I listened to them and I edited out things that weren't relevant anymore, like television news and things like that. And, really focus more on the guests, that we had. Yeah. And I made these because back then we were doing it for 2 hours at a pop, Oh
my God.
So, the energy level was like insane for 2 hours. But when I edited them down and made them like some were 30 minutes, some were 40 minutes, some were just 20 minutes. Like I was just picking stuff. And I reposted those on our feed. And it was incredible. Like the response was incredible. Like people just loved it, like reminiscing about it and the stuff that we did. But as I'm listening to it and doing that, I kept thinking to myself, I cannot believe how different it is. Like it's so different. I mean, you got to be PC. There's a cancel culture going on, like nobody's business, right? So I listened to the some of those old shows and thought, oh wow, like there were things I had to cut out because I knew that they wouldn't be received well now.
Yeah.
But going back even further, think about what we were doing. Like that was the definition of politically incorrect.
Yes, true.
Right. So, but it is, you have to kind of roll with the times and adjust, just like everybody does. You just have to adjust, and that's all it is. I mean, you can still find funny things in just everyday life. Your family, your workers, your situation. It's still, you can always find good material no matter what. So, I just kind of try and stay as PC as possible.
But I'll tell you what, I don't regret what we did in terms of content. And, everybody has to understand, Tom Likas has always taught me the one thing I've learned in this business that I know is very important. Don't do anything you have to apologize for. Right. And then you never get canceled. Because for me, I think what we've done, we can always mature and grow up. We're older. I mean, come on, we got older since we did all this. 17 years ago has a long time. I know that I would never do the kind of show I did. In terms of the programming, the format, I think the chemistry was great. I thought there were a lot of points where you could piecemeal, just like you said, just with Lesbian Lounge. There are points you could just take that are just gold, and you just isolate those out and bring them back into the ether. That's exactly what you do. But I would never do, what, and this is where I have when I think about Howard Stern, and he apologized for everything, I'm like, fuck, man, no. You can come back and just say, okay, look, I'm learning better. I've grown to learn what I've done, but I don't need to apologize for what I did because I did it. You're never going to take that back.
We didn't know better. I mean, we didn't know better. We didn't know. I mean, I bring this up a lot. Like on the Rainbow Remix, we had guests, and then we were guests of the 80s TV ladies.
Yeah.
And they do a show about 80s TV women, and we were talking about like how people now that are like maybe in their 20s that are now just finding friends, and they're like, oh, the way they treated that character of Chandler's father being a transgendered, whatever, and they're all offended by it, so much so that the producers like Marta Kaufman had to like put out an op-ed and say, I apologize for it, but nobody told us any different, and we didn't know that would be offensive. So, you have to think about that, the times that, people weren't being offended, by the littlest thing. And I think that, since about 2014, people have gotten a little touchy. 2016, certain things happened politically that changed the landscape, and everything was, the hate was loud. And I think it's just a mindset now. Like younger people don't get what it was like 20 years ago, 17 years ago. They don't know. So I don't apologize for it, but I definitely learned from it.
Right. And that's all we can do. I'll tell you, one of the best YouTubers out there is Matt Baum. And he goes back and looks at all the old TV shows, sitcoms, so like Barney Miller, the All in the Family, Golden Girls, all of it. And all the areas about gay portrayal across the board. And he explains that, like, what they were trying to do was they were still trying to go in and trendset at the time, what they could get away with, what they could do on television that, they were still going to get blowback from censors, blowback from, some conservative groups that were going to obviously blow back at it. But what? You moved on.
Yeah. And it's all you can do is just, that what's that saying? Like, all you can do is be better tomorrow, like do your best today, but be better tomorrow. And that's, kind of the mindset, nowadays. I'm not looking to shock anyone. I'm not looking to, poke a bear, what I mean? Like, it's not about that for me. I'd rather talk about like, that, and that's one of the things that JD and I think are most proud of is that we really like to spotlight people that are doing something positive, whether it's fundraising for something or something they've created, you know what I mean? Like just little things like that. And I don't know, it just makes me feel good about what we're doing. And I'm not saying that I ever felt bad about what we've done, in the past. Like I don't feel bad about that. It
No,
was
no, no, no.
fucking fun, right? Oh, can I swear on this?
Of course, yeah. Fuck yeah, man.
It was fucking fun what we did. It was every Wednesday. It was fun. And I loved it. Like I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I was
Right.
that green. I went from FM radio and then got contacted by, Winters and said, "Do you want to pitch
Mark
something?"
Winter, shout out to you, my friend. I'm sure you're gonna watch this somewhere. Oh boy. But it was just a different time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still think it was just so much fun we had out of it. I just like that we all kept into the business. Like this was still something that's part of our
Yes.
lives. And I still can't believe, listen, I'm still working with Darren and Brandy these days. We
Oh
never
my God.
left. I just celebrated 18 years working with them. August 1st.
Wow.
Have
They're
not
still
left.
doing it. I did not know they were still doing it. That's
Hell yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. I just think it's a book. I read a statistic and I was talking about this the other night that in 2021,
Uh-huh.
there was 2.1 million podcasts out there.
Oh yeah.
I tried to think about like when we were doing it, and then when I did the Lesbian Lounge, there was like 5 LGBTQ ones, and it was just like that was it. If you weren't scared of the word, because I think a lot of people were scared of the word, they didn't know what it was. Was it taking up too much space on their hard drive? Did they have to download it? It was so unknown, but damn it, they showed up every Wednesday, like that's what I loved is that nobody ever gave up on us. Like even in our worst moments,
Right.
like, nobody ever gave up on us. And I've been really fortunate to have people like you, like Devin that helped us with the Lesbian Lounge. He taught us everything. We didn't know what we were doing. Like Vicky is a teacher. She wasn't a producer. He taught her how to produce.
Right.
He taught us everything about the technology, to stream live, to record, to upload, to, all that kind of stuff. And it was hard back then.
Right.
Now it's like press a button and to upload. It's so much easier. But, when we were doing it, Don and I were doing it, we were doing it from my condo in Florida. My spare room, we had turned it into a studio. I had a console. We had those big radio microphones that you see.
Oh my God. Wow.
Big old can headphones,
Yeah.
Yeah, we were able to like.
Well, when you think about it, at that time, the bandwidth wasn't that great yet. We didn't have Zoom calls yet. We had Skype that was working horribly.
Right. And, I think the thing of it was the best part of what we were doing was that we were sitting side by side, like we were able to be like, if something went wrong, give each other a signal or, you know what I mean? And then when I moved here, when I married Gemma, she got a really good job here in London. And, she's originally from Australia, and that kind of long distance relationship is insane. So cutting down from, 27 hours of travel in a journey, for her to get to Florida, it was easier to do 8 hours to London. So, it made more sense for me to move here. So we got married in Canada where we could. And then we moved here to London. And I vowed, it was like, we're going to keep doing this, Donna. We'll figure out a way. We didn't even know about Skype, and we could have been like doing it over Skype, but instead we were doing it on the phone. And I was phoning in on our guest line, because we had the capability to record that way. We always did. So I was phoning in on the guest line, had to get an amazing international calling plan.
Right.
And, but the problem was we weren't there. We couldn't see each other. There was that slight delay, like in an international call, and the timing was off. The rhythm was off, but we gave it like our best for another 4 years, 4 or 5 years. And like I said, then Donna got this amazing, wonderful job, serving the LGBTQ community like she's always wanted to. And then I knew, from that point that was going to be the end. She was going to have to give that all, give her focus to it. And
right. Well,
and, you just have to pivot and adjust and figure it out. And, I think the hardest thing in the world is getting your shit out there, like finding a reporter that'll listen to you or give you a feature in a magazine article, or, repost something that you post, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't even understand why that's so hard. They'll like it, they'll give it a heart, but like repost that stuff, get the word out, help us, and I think that was the hardest part. And when I was producing for other people, all that came back. Like, I just remembered how difficult it was. And I thought, if I can help new talent, give them the feed, and our built-in, at that point, we had 800 subscribers.
Yeah.
We had over 300,000 downloads, of that, I mean, we were so blessed. Like in 2009, we hit 1 million listens,
Wow.
And that was a milestone.
Yeah.
An absolute milestone. So, I knew that people were out there and they were interested. But, I guess because we weren't business people, we never figured out a way how to parlay it into money. We were doing it because it was a good time and it was fun. And that's all that mattered. The Wednesday night party was all that mattered to us, and then bringing that energy to live events and hosting things and playing crazy games and, embarrassing people and doing dumb stuff, up there. And it was just always about the fun. It was never about the business.
You know what it was? Because you came from radio as well. Like you said, you were doing the stuff with Marky G back in the day, the dance party. And it's like, all right, in radio, we have fun. It's a cruel mistress because it never pays us what we're having fun to do. Okay. It's all there is to it. We all live in that thing. And honestly, as podcasters, for those of you that you're going to go ahead and, add a lot of revenue, listen, I don't make that much on this show either. I'm doing it just because it's promotion for me as well. But I love talking to other podcasters. I wanted to do this because I thought now's the right time for it. And
it's a great idea. It's a great idea because I'll tell you what, back when we were doing the Lesbian Lounge, and I said there was only like maybe five other podcasts available that were LGBTQ.
Yeah.
I flat out refused to ever listen to them or have them on our show. Like, I was such an arrogant asshole.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to listen to it. I didn't want to know what anybody was doing because I was so afraid that it would get in my head.
Uh-huh.
I would go, oh, that's a really good idea. How can we, use that? And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be completely unfiltered and completely original. And that was one of the things I prided myself on, was the fact that we did start out as live streaming. And we didn't edit anything. So there were burps, farts, falling off of chairs, unexpected guests, people walking in, my cat taking a shit in the litter box right behind us. Like, you name it, and it happened. And we left it in there, and that was the gold. Those were the nuggets of gold.
Oh, yeah.
That nobody else had. And it would just go over so well. With our listeners, with our producers. Like, Devin would always say, I don't know where you guys come up with this stuff. I'm like, we don't try. It just happens,
No,
you
it's
just
natural. Yeah.
Yeah, it just happens. But I think that, I was so driven in those days that and I don't know that many people know this about the show, but I would put together every week a scripted format, of our segments, like how we were going to open. I would never tell Donna what to say because that's the beauty of her. She's unfiltered as well. But I would say, like, we're going to open and introduce these upcoming things. And then, at 40 minutes in, Lori Michaels is going to call in from New Jersey and talk about her new hit single. And then we're going to do a segment on like the food stuff that we love and ate, because we're big fat over 40 slobs, and we want to talk about food all the time. And then we're going to talk about what we watched on television, and then we're going to so it was always very formatted. And
you formatted when we did the show the first time too.
Yes.
It was a little bit looser, but it was definitely like 4 segments. We had the idea where to go with it, and an hour.
Yes. Oh, I'll never forget those Gemma Jameson moments, where I crack up over that.
Oh my God.
Too funny. Or lesbian chips with a straight guy, like, wash your balls. It was the best. But the drops that you would put in were priceless.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And Vicky, I think to your credit, we wanted to capture that same energy and
Uh-huh.
the drops and stuff that would go in that were just hysterically well timed and perfect, and it was that kind of stuff. So
I want to say,
I
did I send those sound effects to you guys? Did I send it to the producer there, I think?
a couple. I think Vicky had a few,
Yeah.
and we did try and and they're always appropriate. There were always a reason to put them in.
Well, I take that credit not just for Howard Stern for making me do that stuff, but Neil Rogers was very good at putting that stuff too, because it's just like the right timing on the right sound effect was just, it was great. And you know what? That's one of those things I think, because we did do a bit of the adult on that very first show, I think that was a great entrance into it because, well, first of all, when we talk about that industry, and the people that we talked into it, how much content comes in that is LGBTQ in the first place that is consumed exclusively? Right. A lot. Right. And, when I think of shows like what is it? The one with James Franco as The Deuce. Yeah. And the HBO show, right? And I'm thinking, they bring that all together, and it's like, that was kind of the intro. You think about disco music, you think about the 70s, you just think of that. It's where it's kind of the exposure to it. That with music and just culture itself, it was brought into the art, the music, and the entertainment that we had. And that's how we all embraced
all the time.
Right?
Yeah. I used to think it all the time. Like, I love the fact that here we are, like me, Lisa, Donna, we're lesbians, and we're talking about this kind of male dominated area.
Right.
And we were kind of poking fun, like we were kind of digging at it. We would review those websites. We would talk to these, porn stars or whatever, and just be like, so what does your mom think that you do for a living? Like that kind of stuff.
I still can't forget the one girl we had on that I remember she was like something about, what was it? She was out at a golf course and saw Bill Clinton, and her son was like coming up to him and all this stuff. It was like, and it was like, okay, yes, they're mothers, they're daughters, they're this and that. Like, you realize underneath all the glam and all the camera stuff, it's like, no, these are everyday women that are just empowered, and they're living their lives, and they're taking this as a catapult to something better. And that's what it always looked like to me.
They were doing things on their terms, which was really an interesting discovery along the way, and I think that's we had fun with it, but we did learn some stuff. I'm not going to lie, we came away with some things, but it was interesting to me that we were doing so well, in an industry that we had really no idea
but it just worked.
It was about. Yeah. It worked. It was it was just super crazy. I still keep in touch with Lisa too. I do,
they were, Donna and Lisa were so great. Well, shout out to both of them. So great to work with. Love Donna. Yeah. She was so good. What an anchor to you, really, just both of you as a pair. That's why the show must have been so easy to go and do for so long as it did. And the only thing that could have stopped it was one of you just broke out, and there you go.
Yeah. You know what? I always, in my head, I think that the show that we all did together, with you, was an audition for us to go on to do Lesbian Lounge, because that's where Devin found us. When we had first started talking, he had an all gay dance channel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was an all gay, male oriented, dick swinging dance channel.
Right.
That played constant, thumpa music. And he I think I used to listen to that his channel while I was at my day job.
Yeah.
And I looked at the website for a little, couldn't have that website up for long.
No, not safe for work.
Right. But I saw the contact us, and I was like, So I contacted him, and I said, hey, I'm looking to do, something with lesbians. Would you be interested in having a conversation? And he got back with me immediately and said, I am looking, I do want to make my site more inclusive, for women and for everyone. So we had a phone conversation, and I told him what I was doing at the time, with you and with Donna.
Yeah.
And I said, hop in the chat room, just check us out.
That's right. And I remember you mentioned, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah. So when our, contract was up and fulfilled and whatnot, I know, they wanted us to go on or whatever, but I just felt like maybe we're doing a disservice in a way, because I did sometimes in a way feel like we were degrading, some of the stuff we were looking at, we were a little degrading, but it was so fun.
No, but it made sense how everything worked out the way it did, because I
Yeah.
think because the truth is like that the network we were actually producing for that ended on Halloween what was it, of 2006 anyway. Like
Oh,
eventually the writing
wow.
was on the wall. It was just that because the adult industry started going, 2257, 4475, all these different
Yeah.
statutes coming in, the extra work and documentation, the cracking down, all the free stuff that was out there. So adult went away. Like, and that's what happens with us. Like,
Yeah, it
listen,
made it no fun.
but you know
Right.
what, Darren and Brandy, it doesn't matter because, like, we went back into our mainstream bag for another 9 years or whatever. And then 2015, all of a sudden, Darren's like, "Hey, cannabis just went legal in California. Oh, Prop 64. Okay, we're going to do that." So we've been in
Great.
cannabis. We've been doing cannabis radio since 2014, and it
Awesome.
became And then we started adding psychedelics this last year, 18 months.
Wow.
So we always, and you know
The
what?
guy, you gotta
The
say,
funniest part
the
is a
guy,
lot of adult people came into the space as well because it's like, oh yeah, that's where the money is. That's where,
yes,
so we
that's what I
all know
mean.
the
He
same
has the
people.
uncanny ability to pivot and be ahead of the curve.
Oh, it
Like
was
that's
early.
amazing.
Oh, absolutely early.
Amazing. So yeah, I do. I give you guys a lot of credit for allowing us to come because, like I said, we had no experience, and just be ourselves and have a good time with it because I didn't even know what I was pitching when I went into that first meeting.
Yeah.
You, I didn't even know what I was pitching, and I just threw a bunch of shit out there that came like on the fly. And I remember Winters and Darren going, "Yep, yep, let's do this, let's do
Right.
this," and so like to have somebody just give you that on a plate and say, "Go ahead, do what you want to do, be creative. You can say what you want, you can swear, you can do,
Right.
And it was just this freedom all of a sudden, especially coming from FM radio, where you had to mind every P and be your P's and Q's.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Oh yeah.
but you're answering the clear channel, so so this was like this unabashed freedom, and we just had a ball with it, and we wanted to bring that energy to the lesbian lounge when we were
Mhm.
ready to launch, and we did, and it was I will say this, thank God that podcasts aren't 2 hours long anymore.
No,
Like,
you can do it, but
keeping
it's
that
like,
level of energy up for 2 hours.
oh,
Oh,
exactly, exactly. It's tough. I mean, right now I do 4 podcasts. Well, I do 3 podcasts regularly a week now. I got to do another one where I still keep kind of that the spirit of what we were doing before. I have a show called Depraved and Debaucherous, which is like I still talk about adult topics and themes and culture and dating society.
okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't lose. I can't leave that. So there's always got to be something I
Yeah,
got to talk
a
about.
little
So like,
piece of your heart in that.
well, I got to talk about the Barbie movie a couple of weeks because it's like, oh, look at the portrayal of like men and women and this and that, and like it's all these different discussions where it's like, well, we know that things have changed, like the dynamics of so many different things. And I want to pivot to this real quick because
Mhm.
one thing I always want to say is that, you know, there's one thing where various people want to do whatever content they want to do, but there should be a passion and a genuineness to really appreciate what you're talking about. In the LGBT community, I just feel like there's something about, what before all this really became where, now you see there's so much press and so much coverage, and we have to have Pride Month that's a focus every June, but
Mhm.
how many people are really into it and how many people are just taking advantage of it and just jumping in when the time's right. Like the thing is to me is that I feel like there has to be a bit of a there has to be a struggle there with people that are performative, that are just
Mhm.
coming in just to act the part, people that are not really genuine or sincere about the community at all, and
You're
those
talking
that are
about,
fighting back about it. Huh?
are you talking about Target?
Well, I just
No,
think
I
like,
mean,
well, because I
that's
think
our
there's some people that
biggest.
just want to play like the part of like, oh, I'm this and like slay and this and like it's the stereotypes that have gotten so bad, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not indicative of the community to me. That's not what I know it as.
No, no. And I think it's such a big, broad, rainbow colored paintbrush that we use for our community
Right.
because you do have people that are like that, and it's genuine. They're swishy, they're carefree,
Hmm.
they're spirited, and they're campy. If you look at the empire that RuPaul has built, like
Right.
talk about building a brand, but I mean, there are those people, and and then there are your more demure, ones. Then you have your athletes, and you have your professionals.
Right.
It's such a big, broad, sweeping community.
Mm-hmm.
I have a shirt that says, "Be careful who you hate, because it could be someone you love."
Right.
And
Good
it's so
call.
true. Like you could just imagine, like you just absolutely adore. I'll give you a for instance. I absolutely adore my handyman. Do you know what the name of his company is?
No.
Dave the Gay Handyman.
Good.
To look at him, you'd never know.
Right.
He's a burly looking like a laborer, construction worker type,
Yeah.
But so I think it sounds so cliche to say that, because you know, it's such a struggle to be your authentic self.
Right.
And that's the word, really. I think, when you say there's so many people that jump on the bandwagon and kind of
Oh yeah.
exploit us and our community and whatnot. Yeah, there's always going to be that in any community. But when you find your tribe and you're full of like people that are being authentically themselves, like that's just what you want, in a friendship circle, in business partners, and and if it's someone that's a little swishy or a little campy or whatever, I don't care. If they're bringing something to the table that
Right.
I'm looking for, like I'm perfectly okay with it. So, I was very close-minded when it came to bisexuality and transgendered stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so I not closed-minded, I guess. With bisexuality, I was definitely closed-minded. Like, I would put it right out there. Like, I'm not dating a bi chick. My God, I got enough insecurities worried about her leaving me for another woman. I got to worry about her leaving me for another woman and a man. What are my odds,
Right.
So I used to feel like that. But the more I've become, the older I get and the more I've had, more an expansive circle of friends, and they take the time to explain what it's about. Sometimes it's about a feeling, it's about an attraction. I don't know if I'm going to end up with a man or end up with a woman. Like, I don't know that. I don't go into something
Yeah.
because I am so attracted to this woman. No, there's more to it, And so, the more I learn about it, the more I was, expanding my stuff. And then I don't even remember the year, but I had a friend of mine that I was really, really close with, very butch
Yeah.
lesbian.
Yeah.
Um, Went through a big breakup and needed a place to stay. So she moved into my condo for a little bit and actually stayed there 3.5 years and left as a man. Like, I got to go through the whole transition process with someone who moved in as a butch lesbian and moved out as a transgendered man. And it was so eye-opening and
Right.
so interesting, the ups and the downs and the harrowing medical nightmares that they have to go through. It was just really eye-opening. And so, sometimes an experience will just be the thing that changes your point of view on something. And I always say that ignorance plus fear breeds hate. You know what I mean? If
Right.
you're fearful of something, it's probably because you're not educated on it, and then because you're embarrassed that you're not educated on it, or you've gotten a shitload of misinformation,
Right.
you become hateful, and I think that's such a problem. So if you could take 2 minutes to explain to somebody, your plight, as it may be,
Yeah.
whatever, you really could change some. I'm living proof that you could change people's minds, like and it is just about educating yourself on stuff.
And
You hear
just
people
not being
going,
afraid of being open-minded. I mean,
right,
when
right.
and when you think about the fact that you talk about with transgender, I still got to think of the fact that I don't know if I can say this, but I remember hanging out with you and Donna. I remember we hung out and we went to Scores Fort Lauderdale, and you had a couple of friends with you that were in transition. That's the first time I experienced. I was like, wow.
Right.
And I
That's what
still
I mean.
can't forget the girl that Donna had that was jumping on top of her, named Montana. Jesus, that was a big girl. I mean, it's just
Oh,
like heavy chested, like just big girl.
right.
Like, oh my God.
Oh, I'm telling you, man, when I think about the good times back
Yeah,
then, honestly,
it
it
was.
was so fun. Like, there was, it's just, I don't know. what it was because we weren't young. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
wasn't young. He was like 31, 32, maybe.
Right.
So, it's crazy to me, but we did have such a blast in the name of research. That's in the name of research, we
Oh,
decided we had to go to Score's Titty Bar.
oh boy.
Unbelievable. But that's the stuff we were doing back then, and it was just so fun. And like I said, I think the older you get, maybe, I think it can actually go two ways. You can either get tighter and
Yeah.
more minded, or you just get more forgiving and more open to change and learning and educating yourself. And you know just like I said, it's a big sweeping broad community, and
Oh
there's just
yeah.
it is. I always say, like, in October 11th, whatever coming out day is,
Yeah.
you don't want anybody to ever feel like they have to, because when the time is right to do
Uh-huh.
that. And I'll tell you what, that sticks with you your whole life. Every time you meet someone new, if you're not meeting them in a gay bar or you're not meeting them in a queer setting,
Yeah.
do you tell? Like, I got a job at a pub here. I was
Hmm.
bartending at a pub,
Yeah.
and for the first time in a really long time, I didn't know, like, do I tell my manager? Do I tell this person I'm interviewing with? Do I tell my coworkers? Do I talk to
Yeah.
customers and stuff? And because you just don't know what the response is going to be, and especially in a different country, like, I didn't know, I didn't know.
Right. Right. Right.
So yeah, it was the first time, and here I am. At that time I was just turned 50 and didn't know whether it would be okay to talk about those things. So I don't think that, people that don't have to bother with thinking something like that will never get it. They just
Right.
won't understand. Like, when was the last time you had to explain your sexuality to somebody? You know
I
what I
still
mean?
think of the one time I was working at iHeartRadio, and I remember John. Yeah, well, I won't mention the last name because I don't know if he makes it a point to publicly say that. But I remember when I
Yeah.
first came in the first time working with him, I was like, "Oh, just to let you know, I'm gay." Okay, cool. I was
Yep.
like, "All right,"
Very.
but he just felt like he felt like he needed to go ahead and just mention that.
Yeah, and
I
I
never
think
even think
that's
about
what
it. But aside remembering that he did that, all I remember was that guy was one of the most funniest motherfuckers there was in there, and one of the best people on the radio just got shot over all the time. I'm like, fuck, man, they was screwing
Yeah.
with him over in that job, but he was just such a great guy all across. I wish I could have hung out with him more because he was really fun to be around. Good all around
And
guy.
I get why you had to put it out there, like, and for me, I did put it out there, like, right away, because I thought, I'm not going to censor myself and worry about every time I say my wife, you know,
Yeah,
like, I don't want to have to worry about that. My
right.
partner, I don't want like, so I was like, it's just, one of those things and that's what I mean. Like, I think, with age, you kind of do I don't give a shit. I'm going to be me. And you get to a certain point in your life, and you're like, I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. So let me just clear the air here. So if you hear me say my wife, you'll know why. But yeah, it's just it's a weird feeling, and that's part of the reason why I like doing the Rainbow Remix, is because we get to talk about these things. My friend that I worked at the pub with, 27 years old now. Back then she was like
Right.
21, right? And so she's 27 years old, single mom of a 2-year-old, and we still keep in touch. We still text all the time and everything. The pub is closed, and everybody's gone on and gotten different jobs. And she texted me a message, and she said, "Hey, you got a minute?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I think
Yeah.
I'm bi." Nope, I don't think I'm bi. I know I'm bi. And I'm like, "Well, good for you. Like,
Yeah.
that's great." And so we had some conversations, and I used to talk to her about the old days,
Yeah.
like, and she would just eat it up, just sit there eating it up, laughing. And so I think, she was so comfortable, like, coming to me and telling me something like that. And it's like, not to sound stupid, but it was an honor, when
Yeah.
someone chooses to tell you that, especially in that infantile stage, when it's still so new. So we talked, a lot of texting and everything. And I said to her, Kara, just on a whim, I was like, would you want to come on our show and talk about this?
Yeah.
Like, what your experience has been and what it's been like, and coming out, and she's like, I feel like a late bloomer. I'm 27. And I'm like, I didn't come out till I was 29,
Right.
30 almost. Right. So no, and she was like, all right, yeah. And she came on and she did the podcast. And it was so interesting again to hear someone's personal story, about like how scared she is to approach a woman because she never has, and like she knows she's attracted. She knows that she's, interested, but how do I ask her out? What do I say? Who pays? Where do we go? How do we take her? What, like all that kind of stuff. It's so new. And it was really, really a great, great show that we did.
Oh, yeah.
And then I love stuff like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love hearing about people's, and projects and books and,
right.
That kind of thing. But those little bits of personal stuff, is great. And that's why we do what we do, because if that resonated with someone else who was teetering on whether to come out or not, and they said, well, she can do it,
right.
Like that's what you want. That's what you want. And especially like when sometimes like you'll hear a business owner talking about why their business is important to them, or a project is important to that director or that writer or whatever.
Right.
That's kind of stuff that we like to get to. I mean, yeah, we're going to promote your shit. Yeah.
Right.
But let's talk about the personal stuff that you might not. We had Michelle Clooney on the show from Queer as Folk. She played Melanie.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, she was so open. Like I didn't have to go through managers and publicists because I had met them when I was working for RTG, and we in touch through Facebook and whatnot. So when I approached her to be on, she was like, sure. And I'm like, really? Do you want to, how do you want to set this up? She's like, just shoot me some days and times, and I'll make it work. I was like, oh my God. I was like, is there anything in particular you're promoting? She was like, no. I'm like, okay,
perfect.
We can just, she was like, I'm an activist. I'm a mom. I will talk about anything that you want to talk about. And we went for like an hour and a half, almost an hour and 40 minutes talking about everything from her family, her son, her shows, her, and it was just so refreshing, like you don't get that. So when you get those little nuggets, it just, it stays with you, and you go, yeah, that's why we do what we do. Like it just, you come away like feeling like it was a total win. Yeah.
I always thought that bisexuality was much more common because I'll tell you, I mean, when I used to be chasing around in my 20s and 30s, I can't tell you how many girls that I was interested in. Oh, I have a girlfriend. Fuck.
Yeah.
Because it was. Yeah. Oh, and I can't tell you times when I give a girl my number and I'm like, the girlfriend is like coming back at me, you fucking with me? You're like, yeah, I'm going to come kick your ass. Right? I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And it's so, I hate using this word because it's trendy.
Yeah.
It is what it is,
right.
like, because you look at how fluid gender is now, like a non-binary person,
right.
a gender non-conforming person and trans masculinity and left of center. And there's all these different terms to describe your identity now. And it's, I struggle with the pronoun thing in a big way because I don't know, I get so flustered because I want to get it right. And it's not coming natural. So I'm already in my head about it, and I don't know how to do the they, them, like, see you later, them, like I don't.
Exactly. Oh my God. Can I tell you this? Do you ever feel like sometimes, this is just me. You remember when Maury Povich, when he was not doing the "You Are the Father, You Are Not the Father" episodes? Remember when he had the men and women and you had to guess if they were a man or a woman, if they were born a man or a woman? And then we just, Jesus Christ, man. That show, fucking Maury Povich, man, used to get me like, fuck you, man. You made me think it was, dude, you look good, dude. Everything looks right. And I feel like that all the time. I feel like I'm a Maury Povich now because sometimes I can't tell.
I know. And it's, the look is all one thing. But again, I know how important the pronoun thing is. I'm not in any way, putting it down or questioning it. I totally get it. But I'm just saying it's something. I know people get so offended so easily, like when you use the wrong term.
Right.
So I understand where they're coming from and stuff. But I feel like if they could understand, the urge that we have to get it right, and it just, it actually gets in your head, and you will screw it up at some point. You will screw it up because it's not coming natural. You're asking us to do something that's going completely against what we've always done, so give us time, we'll get there.
I mean, maybe they'll give us a terms of service or something like that. We can kind of follow that, and then they change once in a while, like a little updated terms of service. Okay, check the box. Here we go.
Yeah, they're updating our terms of service. Exactly. It's so hard to keep up with. It really is. And again, like I want to do right. I want to do right by my community, but I've got to cut some slack because it's just not coming as natural as I thought it was going to. And I don't mean it in that way, but it's a slog. It's a tough slog.
But it's also like the other thing too is that what the media decides to go ahead and report on, and what they want to talk about, and what people want to talk about too, where it's like they want to take in directions where it's like, okay, people got to remember the media these days, they don't necessarily do anything good for anybody anymore. It's just all money making anyway. That's all there is to it. Which is where podcasting is like the bastion of like sincerity and reality now. But we still see what's out there that's going to trigger us, make us cry, make us angry. Look at what COVID did to us. Like, look what it's like when they knew they had that kind of control, it's like, all right, they can do whatever they want to us. And, when you see certain things that are being portrayed or talked about, everything has to be performative now. Everything has to be like somebody wants to go and fit somebody in a box or you got to check all these boxes. Like, no, it doesn't have to be. Like, I mean,
I know. I started seeing that. I think it was like maybe 2 years ago when they brought back Queer as Folk, and it was, the new thing, L Word, New Generation,
right? The return of L Word, right.
All these things, and just like that, the reboot. I feel like they were jamming everything they could down our throats, like everything. The disability stuff, the trans person, the drag queen, the queers, it was like, oh my God, you're ticking every box. There's way too many characters. You don't have to cover all of this in a season. Like, it was stressing me out, man, because it felt so obvious, that's what they were doing instead of molding and shaping a character and progressing with that character. It was just like the dude in a wheelchair, and this is somebody that looks like a man, but it's not a man, and they're a they, them, and like all of a sudden it was so much, and it was coming from every angle, and I mean, and I get that streaming services kind of took that on in a way, because networks weren't going to do it, so they're still going to give you the queer best friend, and that's it, the gay best friend, or the gay lesbian, the lesbian best friend, and that's it. But streaming service had that, that more, they can go out wherever they wanted to, it was like, so I felt like we were getting hit with it and over the head.
Right. Well, it's also, they're trying to get whatever audience they can. It's not like they can be HBO or Showtime, which give you just quality anyway. And, you get just good stuff all the time, period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got to make mention of this too, because like, all right, when I look at movies today, it's the same idea. Like, there's one thing I've said about when it comes to movies. I mean, I watched the Barbie movie. I was almost going to watch it a second time. But the thing is too, is that, all right, I want to be able to enjoy a movie that's funny. And God damn it, I cannot find movies that really just make me like, and I went to see the Burt Kreischer movie, the Sebastian Maniscalco movie, and I saw Joyride. I saw, and then I'm just thinking like, okay, of the movies that I enjoyed that were comedies this year, and I go to the movies every Friday, pretty basically, it was still at the end of the day, the Barbie movie gave me a lot of good funny stuff. Sure, there's some stuff that are like, okay, they got to click boxes. Here's all the different Barbies. Okay, got it. No big deal. Yeah. But you know what? Yeah. I'm still going to go. Margot Robbie is still fucking gorgeous as Barbie. I like Ryan Gosling as Ken. The whole Barbie land was cool. The soundtrack fucking rocks. And no hard feelings, which is a raunchy 80s style comedy with Jennifer Lawrence. And I love that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking funny. It's the one movie that made me laugh my ass off this year because I was like, and it's like first of all, I love Jennifer Lawrence, and I like that she's doing well. And I wanted to see that you're doing a movie like this, and the storyline was fucking good. Like it was a real legit, like it was a real Craigslist ad, but they're just kind of embellishing it. Great, and it worked for me. I was like, all right, good. But
it's hard to find quality comedy.
Right, it's hard to find a good. So I mean. It's hard to find good comedy. It's hard to find like places where you can go to enjoy. Because I mean, the comedy I find now, you can find it on a podcast, you can find it on TikTok or Instagram, and I find a lot of funny stuff on there. I mean, it's great.
I know. Let me ask you this question: do you feel like I think back to like when I was a kid, your sense of humor is of course raunchy. It's all about farts and,
Oh yeah.
shit. And then you start to come into, as you grow up, you appreciate a little bit more. And there were shows like movies like Blazing Saddles, History of the
Oh yeah.
World, right? Like the
Mel
classic,
Brooks.
Hear
Right.
No
Right.
Evil, See No Evil, stuff like that. And because we were able to make fun of more things and it was funny. Can
Yes.
you imagine today a blind guy and a deaf guy making fun of their disabilities, right?
Right.
So I'm wondering if comedy has changed because
Yes.
society has changed so much.
We
That's why
can't
we
offend
can't,
anyone, even though it's being
right?
fun. Like, we can't be Don Rickles. I get that. That kind of thing can't happen anymore. But like, yeah, you can't make a
Yeah.
Porky's or thank God they have not tried to remake Porky's or Animal House or Caddyshack or Jesus Christ. I hope they never do that. But like or Blazing Saddles. So exactly.
Right,
I mean,
right.
honestly, it's just all those.
Yeah.
So, that's where the part where when radio doesn't do what it needs to do and can be a bastion of like, just where other voices can go, podcasting has to be that.
Mhm.
And it's also part of the internet where just everything that's actually fun and entertaining is on the internet anyway.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to say the name and I don't care.
Yeah.
I hate Joe Rogan. I
Who's that?
hate Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I just don't listen. It's as simple as that.
He's a fucking meme, honestly. Like, he really is when you hear him. It's like, Jamie,
but,
show me the
that's
video.
the thing,
Like,
like,
it's all that kind of thing. And I can't
if
listen
you-
to him because it's so long. The format doesn't work for me. It's like, whatever.
Right. That's the thing, though. Like, if you come across something in this day and age, you will. And you come across something that you don't like, move on.
Right.
Move on. You don't have to tear it down. You don't have to spew a bunch of hate about
And
it.
you don't have to push it down people's throats either.
Right. Go on to something else that you like.
Yes.
There is a whole universe, now. Like what I say, 2.1 million podcasts out there. So if one offends you, you don't like it or whatever, you will find one that you like and you will stick with it. I found one from 2021 called Who Shat at My Wedding? And it is so fucking funny. Dude, it's two British women who got married and found a turd on the floor of the ballroom or wherever it was. And they did a whole podcast about trying to figure out shit on the floor at their wedding.
Right.
Like stuff out there that is gonna hit with people, so I just don't think that it's a good use of time to express how much you dislike something,
Yeah.
champion what you do like,
Right.
champion what you do like that's the key, for me in staying sane in a world right now that is an absolute hot garbage dump. You've got to find the things that you like, stick with them, share with other people. They may not like them,
Right.
but encourage them to move on. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like it's the only way anything is going to get better if people would just stop knocking everything and knocking each other and, find what you like and indulge in it. There's nothing better than a person that has a passion about something. Like that's just, you can talk to them for hours about it. It's great.
Yeah.
So, I think that, that podcasting is, it's really taken off. There's such a variety and there's so many different platforms and apps and all kinds of stuff. And like I said, it's so easy now. It's so easy that celebrities are doing it.
And you know what? I mean, if they didn't have like their friends to come on, I don't know how good they could be doing. Honestly, some of those is like, man, they better hope that they have some friend that can come on.
I take offense. I got to tell you, I hate it. I hate it. Stay in your lane. Stay in your fucking lane. Make movies, make TV shows, make music.
Yes.
Just get out of here. I mean, us indie people have been in the fucking trenches since 2005, and you're gonna slide in 2023 with sponsors and producers and celebrity guests. And it chokes me, man. It chokes me. It just makes me feel like all my hard work was for nothing when they just slide in and use their celebrity for something like this that they're gonna stop doing when they get a part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when they get a part, That's it. All the ones that did it during
When the
COVID
strike's over.
couldn't work, right? And when
When
the
the
strike
strike's over.
but I posted that on Threads or whatever. Like, when this strike is over, all these podcasts that you're enjoying so much from your favorite celebrities
Bye-bye.
end. That's
Yeah.
right. Unsubscribe because they're not putting anything else out. I can't stand it. So yeah, I do have things that I'm a little bitter about, but move on.
Yeah.
We got to move on from it. It's just I just feel like
Denise,
I said, staying.
I got to ask you to one also. I want to make this point too because I noticed that obviously with the podcast you've been doing and it's been working out so well. I wanted to also ask you because I also noticed that you've been doing voiceover work for television, and
I do.
it's like so animation, right?
Animation. I happen to be sitting at home flipping channels on my British telly, and I came across on Comedy Central UK a cartoon version of Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant and Carl Pilkington doing a podcast. So what they do is they made a podcast and then they put cartoons to it.
Oh yeah.
Them, right? And I thought, I could do this. I could do this.
Yeah.
And I had a meeting about just doing voiceover work for my friend that makes episodic podcasts, like storyline podcasts. And she asked me to do the voice of one of the characters, and I learned a lot, like how to do that and everything. And when I finished, and we were having a Zoom meeting about it, because she's in LA and I'm over here, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing, man! Like I can actually do voiceover work in England for my friend in LA." So we had like a little Zoom meeting after it was over with, and I was telling her about this idea, and she was like, "I could do that." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I do animation." I'm like, "You do?" She was like, yeah, you know that. She was like, "I remember the YouTube videos." I was like, "Oh my God." It was 2006. I don't remember.
Right.
So yeah. So she was like, I think I like this idea. And I think we can make little 1-minute reels. And so what I had to do was go through a 2-hour lesbian lounge show and pick out 1 minute of gold.
Oh, yeah.
It was not easy. It was grueling, but it was so fun. It was so fun to edit it down, send them to her. We found a cartoonist who, oddly enough, that website Fiverr where you can find artists.
Oh yeah. I've used it. Oh yeah.
We found him through that, and it turns out he lives 13 minutes away from me, and he's gay. What? So anyways, he asked me for a ton of photos, and he made our little likenesses, and we started making these 1-minute reels. And Jesus, George, I have like over 150,000 views of 40 videos.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yes. Yeah. It was the easiest project to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to go with it. Like, I just don't know. I have a YouTube channel. I was tweeting them. I was posting them. I was putting them on Instagram. I was putting them on Facebook. That's where they got a lot. But then what? Like, I don't know. Like, what do you do with all that? Like, what do you do with that? People can see how many views, like one show had 20,000 views. One little reel had 20,000 views.
Nice.
It was a really cool start and end of a project, that I never thought I'd see. I never thought I'd see it happen, because it was just a thought, and this is what happens when creative people get together and pool their talents. Like, it was my audio from my show. My friend was doing the rigging and animation. We found a cartoonist who could make our likenesses. And it was just like, this is so cool. Like, it was so organic and perfect. And it was so well received. So it was just really cool. And I do a lot of voiceover work for Linda Anderson. I met her at our first Pride Gay Days in Orlando. And before we even aired the Lesbian Lounge, we were invited, and we went and had never been before. And Devin was like, "Look, there's like a lot of ladies events, like, so go, like, network, whatever." Right. There's short films being aired. So we went to see the short film, and Linda was the director. And we sat on couches with them and her and her circle of friends for hours, like talking. It was just like that creative powwow, and never lost touch. Like sometimes you say you never lost touch, but you go for a year or two without talking or knowing what's going on. But there's always a reconnect with creatives. Hey, you know what I need? So that's like the good part. And so it's been so beneficial, like that. Just it was mutually beneficial for us because Linda was still getting her footing with the animation stuff, and it's a great project to do that with. And for me, it was fun to go back and find. It was challenging to go back and find those clips and edit them into 1 minute little funnies. And Steve that did our animation. Oh my God. I mean, he really captured it. He really did. This look, he captured this look. So damn funny, man.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it was such a fun project to do, and like I said, it's great. It was successful, and then it's ended, and I just like I said, I don't know where to go with it. I don't know what to do with it. So they're there for people to see on TikTok. It's all under TLL Tooncast, so you can go to YouTube.
Denise, what else do you want from podcasting? God damn it, you found your wife. Okay, you got all this fucking extra work you're doing. Okay, I mean you've met all these people. Like, what else are you gonna ask for podcasting? It's like, okay, it's a lottery. Let's do that next.
A lot of branches, come from the podcasting thing, and it really does come down to networking, right, George? Like networking and keeping those connections fresh, and that was one of the biggest gifts of the Lesbian Lounge was the people that we met, and then to watch we had Fortune Feimster on our show when she was only making little YouTube videos of when she would do Darlene Witherspoon, the Hooters girl, and I found it, and on back then nobody knew who she was. We hooked up with her. We managed to get her on the show, and look at her now, man. She's she's in Arnold Schwarzenegger's Foo Bar, like she's in movies. She was in Office Party with Jennifer Aniston, and just doing like so well. So those are the kinds of things that you're like, that is so cool, And I could, when you keep those contacts and those connections, semi fresh, you can say, oh, would you like to be on this show? We're talking about this and comedy or whatever. And they're usually really receptive, and it's a blessing. Like I think of, Dana Goldberg and Suzanne Westenhofer, we've been having them on, forever. And then with the Lesbian Lounge, we used to have them on like once a year because we would promote the Dinah, but now with the Rainbow Remix, I can go back to them and say, would you like to be on? Let's talk about your upcoming appearance in Provincetown at Women's Week. And they're right there for you. Yeah, totally. Yeah, let's set it up. It's like, oh God, thank God. Like it's just it's a blessing. I just think it's an absolute blessing.
Yeah.
We really didn't have arguments. We didn't have fights. Don't get me wrong. I got annoyed with Donna more times than I can count, but you know what? We're still kicking it. We're still friends. Every time I go back to Florida, she's my first call, my first out to dinner thing. And it'll always be that way. Like that bond that we had, especially over everything that we done from your show to our show, it's just a friendship that will not ever go away.
Excellent.
Might not be tight as it was because of the time
we all move along,
workload, right? But that's the definition, I guess, is you can pick right back up where you left off.
Right.
That's a perfect friendship. So yeah, I would get really annoyed my first couple of years here because I was so fucking lonely. And she wasn't answering texts and stuff. I'd get so mad, and then I would come home and I'd give her like a big, blah, blah, blah. And she would always have a decent reason, and I knew that she would, but I had to get it off my chest. But we're still it's still close, family's still close. I still love hearing about her sons and her granddaughter and all that kind of stuff. It's just the coolest thing.
Awesome.
And it's the best. And ultimately the best thing was meeting my wife.
Right.
That was that we will be on our 14th year of marriage this upcoming
14.
October.
Oh my God. That's great.
Yeah. 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 I mean, biggest champion, biggest fan, biggest supporter, like always just letting me do what I got to do. And
Hey,
that, never takes
you're showing
offense.
proof that marriages can exist and marriages can still happen today.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
rare thing now, Denise. You do realize it's very rare to see that happen, and they keep it together for so long. It's like
True. But I
blessed.
got to tell you, you know what? Here's the secret. Marry young. So there's a 17-year age difference.
Right.
Marry someone that's going to be able to pick you up off the floor when you can't stand up. You know what I mean? No,
Right.
she's just has an incredible mind. Like she
Yeah.
is a innate problem solver. And being
Awesome.
Australian never stresses, no stress ever. Like a problem meets it head on.
Yeah.
Little research, couple of options, decision. It's like, oh my
Awesome.
God, here I am, like waving my arms around like a chicken with my head cut off in the backyard because the boiler is making a noise. And she's like, let's Google what the little wrench means.
Right.
That so yeah, we're very different in that respect. But like our strengths and weaknesses are complementary. They really are. We did and she's very like low key, like under the radar, doesn't like attention, none of that stuff. And I
Yeah.
committed to an interview with CNN Travel, who
I saw
do
the story. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I committed to doing that. And then I had to convince her to do it with me because they
Uh-huh.
wanted both of us. And she does not do that kind of stuff. But she did it. She did it for me. And it was great. Like, I mean, I can't even tell you the response that got, like when I posted that
Wow.
link on Facebook. Like, I don't think anybody really knew the challenges that we had to overcome to be together. Her being from Australia, me being from Florida, how we met, how it worked out, how we sustained that long distance shit. And then what the solution was. But, that was the solution was to get married in Canada where it was legal and binding. And she got a job here from another listener of the
Yeah.
Lesbian Lounge, right? So it's just this weird connection of like friends, family. When I think about our listeners back then that followed Gemma and mine's journey,
Yeah.
they were so invested.
Oh
They
yeah.
were so invested, and they end up becoming like family. Like I mean, I text with I'm really close with a lot of listeners from that first, second, third year.
Yeah.
Still friends, still text, still keep in touch. And we think about the ones that are no longer with us, and
Yeah.
that passed away or whatever. But what we created those few years is I don't know. I can't compare it to anything. I really
No.
can't. I had the lesbian herstory archives get in touch
Hmm.
and say, you guys were like pioneers back then. Would you
Yes.
be able to donate some things, like some physical things, whether it's merch or old show scripts
Right. Right.
or,
Right.
anything? Would you? And I was like, yeah. I just got to figure out a way to get to New York to do it. They're in Park Slope, of course.
Yeah.
And guess what? This September, we are going to New York and I am delivering them some things. And I mean, this is, like, I feel like they asked me, I don't even know, 3-4 years ago, and I did say yes. But at that time, you couldn't mail anything, you couldn't, it couldn't be electronically, it's a museum. They want physical, tangible things, so yeah, I had to figure out a way to get it to them, and it's
Right.
finally worked out where I can
That's
drop off
awesome. Hey, well,
show
just
stuff.
remember when you go to New York, just be careful of the rats if you're walking around the streets, and watch out for those goddamn DoorDash drivers that are riding around on bikes and mopeds.
Oh, I
Okay,
know, I
that
know.
shit is like. I went there in March and I was like, "Fuck, man, these guys are just like all over the place. They're just fast." I'm like, I don't know how you do it, man.
Dude, I've been to Amsterdam. Talk about bike riders. Oh my God. If you even have a piece of your shoe on the bike path, they're behind you with a bell. All right, okay. It was like they're gonna ride up and over me at some point because
Right.
it,
Oh, yeah, totally.
so yeah, I'll be all right. And we're only there a day because then we're going on a cruise, and then we go up the eastern, go up. Isn't this great? It actually goes up the northeast coast of
Uh-huh.
the United States. So like Rhode Island and Maine and Boston, and then Canada, and then back to
Right.
New York. And I'm like, this is fantastic because the last thing a fat person wants to do is go to the Caribbean. So I like the
Oh,
leaves will
God.
be changing. It'll be cool. It'll be crisp. I'm so happy. We haven't taken a vacation together for fun in
Yeah.
years because it's always traveling to see your family.
Right.
My mom's getting older and she's got MS and it's harder and harder. And
Oh,
when I do come home, I stay for longer,
right.
So in the same thing, her, it's a 27 hour,
Oh,
journey to
yeah.
us.
I can
So
imagine.
if you're going to stay a month. So that's the kind of travel that we've been doing for the last God knows how many years. So
Yeah.
this is a fun trip. I'm totally looking forward to it. It'll be great. Yeah, recharge. It's a recharge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Denise, I'm so fucking happy for you. I'm so glad everything went out so well all
Hey, you
these
do
years later.
too. Like, I mean, I've been following everything from the wrestling to the cannabis rated to now this, and this like so caught my eye because I was like, look at him, he's doing it. He's going to talk to other podcasters where I never would tread. You know, I would
Right.
never talk to other podcasters. He's doing it. So yeah, I was like, I was just so thrilled, and just catching up and seeing your cute little face, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
just brings back a flood of memories. It's so
True.
fun. So fun. I'm really happy. Congratulations, like on all your
Thank you.
18 years. 18
Honestly,
years.
working with you and Donna, I learned so much in all of that because there was just so much more that we were doing in that. The polishing, just the extra production we did, the effort to it was a bit of an undertaking, but I loved the experience, and
Yeah.
I learned so much, and I still think about so much that we did off of that. But like I said, it was like so fucking happy when I saw you went ahead and moved along, and you went the direction you did with the Lesbian Lounge, and then all the way to here with Rainbow Remix. Incredible.
It's
That
fun.
it's just,
Fun
but
to
that's
do.
that's the path of podcasting, and I hope people can realize all the advantages and all the things you can get from this, the perks and just the benefits of it. And it's like
Mhm.
that's incredible. It's
It
so
is.
good
It
to
really
catch
is.
up.
It so is. It was such an absolute delight, I was looking forward to it all week. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Monday, I'm like, I said to my wife on Monday, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to do the podcast today. And she goes, it's tomorrow. I was like, oh fuck, it is tomorrow. It is tomorrow. Like couldn't wait to do it. I'm so happy for you. I can't wait. It's been so great, man. You have to give my regards to everybody. Obviously you still see Darren and them, like, and Brandy, like, tell them hello. I mean, give them
I
a
will.
high. Yeah. I mean, it was just the start of something I never knew that would take me this far.
Yeah, yeah. It all worked out. It all worked out. And it was so good. I think so. I'm glad I got to be a little piece of it. And I always said that to you. It's like I always, whatever
Big
you're
piece.
doing because I remember we talked when you started doing the show. I was like, just don't forget the little people. That because I knew you were going to go somewhere. I knew it too, and I was like, well, there you go. And I'm
Oh
glad we
man.
kind of went full circle. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
totally. Well, you know what? Like I said, we learn from the best. So, I appreciate you and them giving us a chance. That's what everybody needs. And what a payoff. What a payoff.
Absolutely. Hey, so let's go and do it here. So real quickly, go ahead and do some plugs. I know we got to talk about Rainbow Remix. What else do we have? Also, just take people where they can follow along with you and keep in touch.
You can find the Rainbow Remix on YouTube if you want to watch it.
Yeah.
If you want to watch us actually record. And that is just at the Rainbow Remix Podcast. Got to put all the words in, otherwise you're going to get all kinds of weird things. And then we do have a Facebook page, same thing, the Rainbow Remix Podcast. And we're on Twitter, X, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're on Instagram, everywhere. And then personal stuff, like I said, the cartoon is
Mhm.
available on YouTube at youtube.com/TLL Tooncast altogether. And same thing on TikTok. there's really nothing else there except those. So don't expect any clown ass videos from me. It's just the cartoon stuff. And that's it. And I'm also an author. I wrote 3 books. They're available on Amazon. Just Google Denise Warner, and you'll find them.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Fucking busy, man. You've been busy.
Fill the voids. Got to fill the voids.
Oh yeah, you're doing great. And oh wait, I gotta ask you, like, what do you think about the fact that you've been in England this whole time? And I just feel like, you know what? I listened over to the radio over there in England, and I'll follow some of the TV shows. Something about where just England just has things like, it's got things figured out a little bit more. A little more, culture's a lot more allowed, and a lot more just diversity of everything.
Their sense of humor is very quirky.
Oh,
I was always scared that it wouldn't translate for me. I wouldn't get things, or they wouldn't get me. But yeah, you just push through and you get it. They have some funny podcasts, man. If you ever get a chance to look at Novel, Novel podcasts under comedy, there's one it's called like Last Call. And it's like, over here, you get a last call, you get a chance to order something, and you've got like 15 minutes before they kick you out and lock up. So these are conversations that are had in those 15 minutes, and it's fantastic. So that's what I mean. They have quirky, interesting humor over here that now I find charming. At first I was very intimidated. Now I find it's charming.
Wow.
They do have it locked.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. Again, I've been here with Denise Warner-Gregory, host of the Rainbow Remix podcast. And, hey, happy trails. And I'm just so glad we got to catch up. And I'm glad you were coming on the Podcasters Road. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
All right, you got it. And so, folks, thanks for listening in. We'll talk to you next time.